this show. I'm trying to speak to this around now. So today we're talking about worship. Worship. We when we think about worship, there are a lot of things that come to mind. In fact, immediately I say worship, there is there is an automatic response on our brains. If I ask, okay, who are the worshipers in the house? It's very likely that the choir will raise their hands. It's very likely to raise their hands. And they are not wrong, but they are not also completely right. When we think about worshipers, the first thing we think about Pastor and Sebastian, think about this, think about Kusola, think about those people that literally sing. What we realize when it comes to worship is that we think about people that there's something that joins them together that they have to common. Most of them sing, some of them play instruments, some of them lead the church in worship. Now they are worshipers, but singing or melodies, they are a form of worship. They are a way to worship, but they are not worship. It's a means to what worship is. So the question that we are going to ask and answer ourselves today is what is true worship? What is true worship? And what I've come to realize is that scripture paints a broader picture as to what worship is. One thing I noticed when I was preparing for the sermon is that almost every time that worship was mentioned in the Bible, it was always accompanied by an action. It wasn't just, oh, I think one sing. In fact, the number of times where worship was equated to singing or praising, there are not as many as the time where worship was akin to sacrifice. So, our definition of worship, what I'm going to define worship as is worship is the demonstration of the heart of consecration through actions that show God is working place in our life. Worship is the demonstration of the heart of consecration. And these actions show God is working place in our lives. So the first thing to note is that worship begins with consecration. Okay? Let's open our Bible to Matthew chapter 15, verse 8. Matthew 15, verse 8. 15, verse 8. 15, verse 8. These people draw nigh unto me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. See, these people draw nigh unto me with their mouth. That people are saying many things. They are saying the right things. They know the right things to say. They know what I want to hear. That's why they are saying this. But where it truth counts, do they believe it? Does it actually make a difference to them, the words that they are actually saying? What I come to realize is that what you believe, what you genuinely believe, affects how you live. It affects how you act. It affects how you talk. It affects the way you dress. It affects the way you interact with people around you. It affects how when you are angry, there are things you don't feel because they are things you believe. I'll give you an example. If after church you get back and let's assume that you're living with your roommate. And then as you enter the house, the roommate says, "Ah, I'm trying to call you. Why did you pick that call? You mean I will call this my this call, what's wrong with you? Why did you pick?" And then like I'm calm down, I was good, but what did I do wrong? What's the emergency about? And then that roommate tells you when I was about to leave for church this morning, I said, let me ease myself. But I was just being myself, I thought the bathroom and I saw a snake. And I ran out. Um, how many times do you think again before going to that bathroom? Think about it. If your roommate called you and told you there's a snake in that bathroom, I saw it. When you get home and you see already sitting outside, you say, did you kill this neighbor? I didn't kill this neighbor, kill them. How many times will you sleep before opening that door? How many times? Some of us won't even go near the toilet. So we have find somebody, find some type of poison or whatever can kill that sleep before we even think about opening the door. And that's because we genuinely believe that if I open this door and then they sleep there, I might just tell the landlord that I'm parking out. I'm looking for a new house in there. That's how some of us behave. When there are things that you genuinely believe, that you know is genuinely true, there's the way you act, there's the way you do things. You don't talk anyhow. When you know that somebody is your boss in the office, there's the way you know you can't speak to that person because you genuinely believe you are that person can let you go to jail. And if we can do that with our everyday life, how much more then with God? Because that's what Jesus was telling us here. He said, "These people draw nigh unto me with their mouth. They honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me." What Jesus telling us is that in the place that it truly counts, in the place that it truly counts, you don't really honor him. Because sometimes we approach God as if we don't know that He sees our hearts. He sees our deepest desires. He knows what we're thinking about when we're lifting our holy hands. He knows that, okay, this person is saying, she's saying the right things, she's saying the right things. But his mind is in how he's going to get to work tomorrow and do this and do that and do that. And it's interesting that the Bible says that our life is not a race. You are here for a moment and then you are gone. And God knows that our hearts are going with him. That's why he was saying this. So what first of all to give the concentration and it begins with the concentration of the heart. Your heart must first of all be the right thing. Because God sees your heart. He doesn't judge you based on only the things you do, but where your heart actually is. So that's where it starts from. In fact, when Jesus was saying that if you even as so much as look at the woman loves me, you are committed adultery with her. When was that sin committed? You haven't done anything. You haven't gone to meet that person. You haven't gone to meet that man. You haven't gone to meet that woman. So when was that sin initially committed? It was committed in the heart. So the position of your heart to God, that's where worship truly begins. When you truly position yourself, you position your heart and you look to God first. That's what worship is. Worship is a demonstration of your heart and consecration through actions that show God is the right thing for this in our lives. So people are saying a lot of sweet things. Oh, I love you. I will do anything for you. I will die for you. Until the time to die. Until the time to die. Even if married vows, for better for worse, until things get worse. We've seen a lot of things on Instagram. Instead of saying for better for worse, it's for better or better. Who are we deceiving? Or richer for richer? Who are we deceiving? What if things go bad? That's why those vows are there because it's not just about what it looks like now. It's about what is coming. I love you regardless, here or there, whether we're rich or we're poor, in sickness and in health. That's what it's about. It's about where your heart is. Because if it's not about where your heart is, when things change too. When things change, you will change too. That's why when we sing and when we say all these things, is your heart really there? And you think that a heart that is separated to God produces true worship. But a heart part of God produces only religious activity. It's easy to just kneel down and pray just because you want to pray. But there's something that we're told from children church growing up is that prayer is talking to God. I was speaking to someone a few months ago, and The person said that it's just not normal prayer. And then I really thought about it. That maybe the reason we think it's normal prayer is because we don't actually understand what we are doing when we go. It makes our helpful and head. Go down to the level of affliction so that you can come boldly into his presence and we call it normal prayer. Maybe we've gotten so used to the access that we have that we have forgotten what it took to get that access. There's nothing, there's nothing normal about prayer. You are going to meet your father, your creator. Sometimes we forget. And if you worship is worship is not just words. Nowadays we don't talk and do. Worship is demonstrated through action. And worship can look like many things. One of it is singing. Genuinely singing to your God. That is the type of worship. But worship can be many other things too. What can look like turning away from temptation. Sometimes we don't think about it. That you are faced between two options and you know what you should do. And then you don't do it. You go the other way. You know what you should do and you know you did something else. Have you ever thought that that's the lack of worship to God? What God wants you to do, knowing that you are in the will of the Father. That is true worship. That I know that it may be inconvenient for me, but I will do it because I honor you. It's not just about what we think we see. The way you act says a lot about what your heart is, whether that worship is really coming from inside. Worship can look like choosing holiness over convenience because it's not easy. It really is not easy because it is much easier for me to sleep through the night than for me to wake up and pray. It is much easier for me to finish my work at the end of the day, and then I get back home and I say, you know what, I need to read my Bible today. That I must. I can't go to bed without it. Even if I start reading and then I sleep, I know that when I wake up tomorrow morning, before I go about my day, I will finish what I was meant to read. Because it's not convenient. It's not convenient. It's not, it's not the easiest thing to do. But it's a sacrifice that you make because you know that you are not just reading another story. You are reading a love letter from God to you. You are reading the process by which you should live your life. Because that's what it's about. That is what it is about at the end of the day. It's literally what it is about for people. What it can look like giving up something valuable for God's sake. So if you're not really about something valuable, I think you're something very good. It's as little as paying your time and giving your offering. That is worship too. That is worship too. Because at the end of the day, something happened if I don't know, if you want to go. I was working around Elga and I had to leave from one hospital to another hospital. So we got into the car and then the driver was going to the house. So we got to the junction where police was. And I hadn't worn my seatbelt here. So the police stopped us on the way to seatbelt. I said, sorry. I made it sound as if I was running from one hospital to another. I said, I'm sorry, we're just in the hospital, we're going somewhere. So now said, is that why you were going to swear to our Russian? Now said, okay, I just give me something. I didn't have cash, so I looked in my pocket, there was no cash. I looked at my bag, there was 200 naira there. And I got out the 200 naira. And I gave this to the policeman. And the policeman looked at the gentleman. Yeah, I looked at me. I said, it's 200 naira, give me money back. And it was funny to me because he doesn't know what I went through to make that 200 naira. It might look like just 200 naira. But even if it's money I can put away without thinking about it twice, I sweat. My sweat came out before I collected that money. So he didn't understand the value that I was attached to. He really was something very small. So when it comes to things of value, as little as giving your offering, eh, is a form of worship. As little as giving your time, and the thing is, this is not easy. The thing is, my title journey, I always say I'm going to start, I'm going to pay my time. Thank that God opened my eyes to realize that the reason I won't pay my tithes is not I won't get serious about it. I won't take this seriously. What happened that day? And so that day I'm not making my tithes. When the salary comes, I'll say, I'll pay it tomorrow, I'll pay it tomorrow. I'll get to church. Don't worry, I'll pay it back. You know when I'm like my money now. Until it gets to the middle of the month and then the money is not looking like what it will look like. And then I'll take it out. I'll pay next month, I'll pay next month, I'll pay next month. What happened one day was I was praying on my phone and I saw something that I really wanted to get. And I'm like, man, don't pay salary, I don't buy it. I keep you once. Immediately I paid for that thing. Like I saw the thing, I went to the page, put my account details, and I pressed transfer. Immediately that money left my account. I don't know how to explain it. Like I felt like something was not together. I'm not joking. I was just there and I just felt and then I heard clearly, this thing you bought like not two times your price. And I really started to think about it as when we try. This technique itself because what that taught me was it's it's technically easy to transfer money, but why is it more difficult to give your time? Why do we not see it as worship to God when we want to give Him money or give Him our substance? When we truly know and if we truly believe that He's our source, why can't we give Him? Why can't we pass it? Since that day, once the money enters my account, if I don't transfer it then, the Sunday I get to church, I transfer it before time. Because I now realize that if I was taking it seriously, if my house was genuinely in the right place, if I saw this as an act of worship to God, it wouldn't be difficult for me to do. It might start off difficult, but over time, what you realize is the more you do it, the easier it becomes. What it can look like obeying God when it comes to something. There are times when you're facing decisions that you don't even know the way forward. You're between a rock and a hard place. But it's important to know that we are not tempted beyond what we can do. Whatever challenge that it seems like you're facing, the reason you are facing that challenge because God knows that He can trust you to overcome it. The truth of the matter is, it's easy to look at somebody that's down to it and say that why is this person gambling? But if you that you're smoking, that person that is gambling doesn't understand why you're smoking. He can't get it like how can someone always be smoking? So because you are not faced with a specific challenge or a specific type of sin or a specific type of how can I say, with respect, let's do things as I would say. You don't know what another person is struggling with. You have no idea because you don't know. Someone that steals, you look at someone that lies and say, I don't know, that person is always lying. Someone that is lying, you look at someone that say, that person is always stealing. But you don't know what it's like to always feel like you have to lie. You don't know what it's like to see something and say, I'm it to the extent that you have to steal to get it. You are not challenged by that thing. So you don't know. So it can be difficult. But the key is worship is obeying God, even when they touch you something. Even more, what can look like forgiving someone who hurt you, like forgiving someone who hurt you. And the thing about that is we all think that we're very forgiving people until you have to forgive. I thought I was a very forgiving person. Also, the friend of mine did something to me that Before I let that thing go, I know the day I let it go. I didn't let it go of my own free will. I was in church that day, and the pastor was talking on the pastor was preaching about forgiveness, and I didn't know how to let it go. I just didn't know how. I thought that it was you step on my toe. Don't worry, you can go. I thought that was forgiveness. That okay, I gave you 200 naira, 1,000 naira, you pay me back. And don't worry, forget about that forgiveness. Until somebody does something to you that costs you that you never expected from you, and you have to let it go. That's how you know whether I'm truly a forgiving person or not. I have to pray that day that Holy Spirit help me. Take this thing away from me. And I know I felt like something lifted in my chest. And since that day, anytime I think about that person or what that person did, I don't have those negative feelings anymore. I can't completely forget the acts that that person did, but my feelings of hate, of resentment towards that person, I was able to let them go by the grace of God. And that's what work can look like. You can look at that keeping strong that has genuinely nurtured. One can also look like serving God faithfully when nobody notices. Serving God faithfully when nobody notices. It's you can come to church and lie down, roll on the floor. It's good. That's a posture of worship. That's a posture of prayer. That's a posture of reverence. But it's not until you do that. You do those same things at home. You do them in your closet. You do them where everybody can see you. Or I need to meet them because people are watching. Worship can look like serving God faithfully when nobody notices. We can take a look at the example of Abraham sacrificing Isaac. That's in Genesis 22. Let's open our Bible to Genesis 22, verse 5. And Abraham said unto his young men, abide ye here in the earth, and I and the Lord will go yonder and worship and come again to you. Let's look verse 7. We read from verse 7 to 11. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father and said, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. And he said, behold the fire and the wood, but where is your, let me move on here. For where is the lamb for a burnt offering? So in verse 5, Abraham tells his servant that, oh, I'm going to worship. But in verse 7, I think he's asking the father, okay, so where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And then this is what Abraham says. So that means there is something that I think understood for what Abraham said. Abraham said we are going to worship. But I knew that there was something missing. Because when my father goes to worship, I know what worship means. Abraham, he understood that Abraham wasn't going to go and sing. He wasn't going to go and dance. That's why Isaac asked that, okay, well, you only guys not to kill where you are going. And they don't even you are taking. What's happening? Where is the land? So Isaac understood something. And that's why he said, and they came to a place which God told him, Abraham, and then he bound Isaac his son, and laid him upon the altar. And then we go down to the 11 where God provides the land. So that shows us that when Abraham said he was going to worship, he wasn't talking about going to sing or dance, because there was something that Isaac understood. Isaac understood that with worship comes sacrifice. Oh, take the time. So there are three elements of worship, three things that we have to know. The first is the heart and then the act. The first is the heart and then the act. Let's go around to John 4, verse 22 to 24. John 4, 22 to 24. 22 to 24. You want people you know not what. That is, you want what you do not know. And we know what he wanted for salvation is of the Jews. This was Jesus talking to the woman at the well. And he was telling her that they worship things that they don't know. We worship because we know that salvation is for the Jews, right? But an hour is coming, and now here, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, yes, the Father wants us people to worship him. So when yeah, he says when the true worshippers, what what Jesus was trying to tell us there is that oh, they are actually true worshippers. And then Jesus said that they are true worshippers, means that they are false worshippers. So what I'm trying to say that the person is is one of the most important things when it comes to worship. When you want to worship God, verse 24 tells us, verse 24, that they that worship it must worship it in spirit and in truth. And there is only one way to worship God in spirit. You must first of all be a believer, you must have the spirit. That's what gives you the access, first of all. There is no access without having the Holy Spirit. That's the first thing. The first thing. Because when you have the person of God in you, that's the Holy Spirit. That's when you can first worship God in spirit and in truth. The next thing is the heart. Our words must match our lives. I don't think I can emphasize this enough. You can't claim when you say things and then there are no actions that follow. It's like you have spoken with your wife or your spouse, and then let's say your wife is cooking, she's cleaning, she's taking care of the baby, and then says, Brother Victor, please help me to and change the diaper of our son. And then Maria says, sorry, I'm too busy working out now with food. When you can see, when you can see that somebody is clearly busy, it just shows what that shows is that the priority to me is not you. And when we claim to love and worship, the priority is clear. So the first element of the person, you must first of all belong to God. Then you must be able to give your heart to God and then finally the act. Let's look at Bible to Romans 12 and 42. Romans 12 and 42 says, therefore, brothers and friends of God, I urge you to present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God, because this is your spiritual work. So, do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may discern what is the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. If I take verse and I'm happy everything we talk about, thanking yourself is about you first. You present yourself first as a living sacrifice. Holy and acceptable to God. It's the act of worship. It's the same way that Jesus said that the woman that gave, the widow that gave the little price, gave more than the rich man. Because God showed the house. He knew that what she gave was her all. That after this, there is no more. So they want to pour out everything she had for God. That's a good to obey your heart. That when God asks you for something like he did for Abraham, that you're able to say, I will let it go. I will let it go. There is nothing God can ask of me that I will not do because I know that in my strength. There is nothing that God can ask of me that I will not do because I know in my strength. How many comes to work after the person, and then now we have access, and then we have a relationship. Sometimes we forget what it really means to have a relationship with God. Because if you have a friend that's always coming to meet you only with problems, never something to laugh at, Never let's go out to get fulfilled. Never I thought of you and I got you this. Never I'm calling to check up on you. Oh, hello, there's this problem, I need this, I need that. And even sometimes, even the way we talk to God, one thing I came to learn when I was learning about prayer was that, like I said in the beginning, prayer is expression to God. Sometimes we find it very difficult, and I think it's why some people find it hard to pray sometimes. Because the idea that we have of prayer, I think we'll talk about it that day. The idea we have of prayer is you are coming, you have to be solemn, or you have to be speaking in tongues continuously. So prayer is actually talking to God. Sometimes just when that you just sit down in your room and just God see what happens to you. And I learned this when I heard we had a preach one day, and I actually went to check this. That it's almost the exact same way that David talks to God. It's almost the exact same way that David talks to God. Ah, God, see what they are doing. See what they are doing to me. See what happened to me. He said that I can't save you. Sometimes we just find it easy for us to God that God, I'm feeling this way. I'm struggling. How come I can't pray? I feel like I'm feeling like consecration. God wants to hear from you. He wants to hear everything. He knows already, but he wants you to come. He wants you to come. Because at the end of the day, you need to understand that you are on God's side. You should be on God's side. It's the same thing that happened when in the Old Testament, where was it Joshua that was fighting the war, and then the angel came, the angel of God came, and then Joshua asked him that, "Are you for us or against us?" And the angel said, "I'm not for you. I am for the Lord." So it is our job as individuals to align ourselves with God, not God aligning himself with us. It's important that you realize that you can go to God and just say, God, I really am struggling. The way you will tell your friend is the way you will tell God. That doesn't mean that there's not a place for you, there's not a time for living down, or a time for calm, or a time for tears, or a time for bowing your head. Finally, no, no, no. When we talk about worship is not really simple. It's not just saying big full words. It's not just attending church. So sometimes that's how we call worship. Talk our worship service. Worship is the visible expression of what your heart feeling. It's a visible expression of what your heart is. That what you say and what you do are not different. You- And when you align your heart, your obedience becomes worship. Your sacrifice becomes worship. Your singing becomes worship. Your praise becomes worship. Your chanting becomes worship. So I'm going to pray. Now, Lord, align our heart with you. Align our heart with you. Align our heart with you. Let today be the beginning of a new relationship with God. When your heart follows you, when your heart follows you, when your heart follows you. Well, when you sing, you're not just singing every time you're singing. You're singing because you believe, not because the sound is catchy. Because you get carried away. You get carried away because some songs just sound nice. But when you are singing, you are singing from the depth of your heart. Because you know that the way that when you sing, you can sing it more from the cross for your sins. The way you follow the ancient of days, you know that what you wanted before you change. That's why you pray. There is something scared of that let you know that you can't let it around. That your heart is the right place. Ah, ah,